Something that I want to just remind everybody of is if they're having trouble hearing the different words and so forth, please do turn on the closed captioning. It works both in YouTube and Facebook. Because the thing is, you might be able to see us, but if you can't hear us, or if you can't hear what we're actually saying, you know, they go better together. They're kind of like peas and carrots, as Forrest Gump would say. Some things you just need both sides in order to make them work, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I have this image of, for some reason, every time I hear this, the name of this talk title, Better Together, I go to peanut butter and jelly. Now, jelly without the peanut butter is just a little too sweet for me. Peanut butter without the jelly is really problematic to try and speak afterwards. You can try it anytime you want. Excuse me. But some things you need both to create balance. And so part of what's been going on in the world these days, and we have been aware of this for the last century or so, is that we have slid way over to the divine masculine and to the masculine properties and way of being in the world and those particular values, and slid way away from the divine feminine. So just as a means of understanding that particular dynamic, let me share with you that I was taught that every minister is also a prophet. We are the ones who go away for the 40 days and 40 nights or whatever and spend time alone in order to hear the voice of God. And then our job, the part that we really focus on, is that we speak truth. That is our job as prophets. We speak truth to power. If you look at the Judeo-Christian tradition, or mostly the Tanakh, the Jewish traditions, excuse me, what you'll see is that the job of the different prophets was to either comfort the disturbed or disturb the comfortable, basically. And so what they would do is they were in charge of telling the Jewish people when they'd gotten a little lazy, maybe they weren't doing their tithe, maybe they weren't doing their mitzvahs, maybe they weren't doing the rituals as they were meant to be. In times when the Jews were being oppressed, it was the job of the prophet to speak truth to power, to the oppressor. Now, there is definitely a place for that. And if you watch the news, it's all over America right now. But the prophet is kind of a solitary being. It's the person who holds that very secret knowledge that goes away from the world and comes back and will only share that esoteric knowledge with other people who have earned the title of prophet. That's a very pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, masculine way of doing things. The divine feminine says, look, there is better work to be done. I don't have to be in charge. The divine feminine is more of the urban mystic, I would say. Yes, we do go away in order to go within, but it's to have the relationship. It's all focused on the relationship. And in the divine feminine, what we do is we start reaching out to each other and creating coalitions and creating groups that can work together. I've been reading a book by, where is it? Mirabai Starr, called Wild Mercy. And it looks like this. Ta-da! Wild Mercy is all about the divine feminine and feminine mysticism. You could even say feminine theology if you really wanted to geek out over it. The mystic is purely relational and is driven to create communities of healing from that love of the mystical, from that beautiful poetry that pours forth when a mystic begins to speak. Yes, you're still speaking truth, but it doesn't necessarily make as much sense to the logical mind. It's more like a box of rain being gifted to you. And so we need both prophets and mystics here on this planet right now. We need, each and every person needs to needs to have access to both their masculine and feminine side within them. And in order to create that balance and that cohesiveness, we need both sides. And there's more than that. Can you imagine this center trying to function without all of us? I realized when I woke up this morning that our office goddess, as I call her, has been with the center for 10 years now. And mea culpa, I forgot to send a card. I'm going to blame it on the post office right now. Yeah, that's what happened. But what would we be without an Eileen in the office answering the phones and making sure that the money was taken care of? What would we be without a Tom? Tom Kimmerly, in the midst of all of this, where everybody else is at home and kind of separated, has been working very long days to make sure things like we actually have cable internet before they put down the asphalt where we need to put the cable internet. He's the one who caught what could have been a really horrible drainage problem before asphalt was put over where we needed to put the drainage. He's caught so many things thus far, and that's just in the last few weeks, because he is willing to do his part, and most people won't even know he's done it, except, you'd know if he didn't do it because, floods and no internet. But we have these wonderful people. We have the Heart Connection. Beth Mosier and Jerry Aronson are the current leaders of the Heart Connection, and they are very quietly working to make sure we stay connected by phone. They're also organizing this thing where, since we can no longer have people dial in to listen from the sound booth, basically, they are arranging for people to have somebody with a computer put their phone by the computer, and somebody without a computer can listen in, even if they have a rotary phone and a landline. I don't think rotary phones work anymore. But even if they have the Progresso tin cups or whatever, they can still be part of this. They can still understand that they are part of something greater than themselves. And it might be invisible to the rest of the world, but it is that coming together. We need every single person in this community to bring their consciousness, to bring their gifts, to be who they are and be accepted for who they are and who they are not. There's a one moment. There's a beautiful piece of Jewish mysticism that my teacher called the Kabbalah. I always read it, so I said Kabbalah. And it's part of the creation story within the Jewish mystic tradition, that this infinite being called Ein Sof, that was beyond words, that could not be spoken of because it was too big and too infinite and too amazing. It wanted to take form. And so the divine feminine did the work of kind of contracting herself into physical form. The problem was that the infinite cannot be contracted into the finite. Ernest Holmes is very clear about that. You cannot contract the infinite. And so the Shekinah shattered as it tried to become physical form. And all over the world right now, there's these little pieces of the divine feminine. And our job is called Tikkun Olam. It is our job to go find those pieces and bring them back together. To find those pieces and figure out, like we have a huge cosmic puzzle. To bring heaven to earth, we have to find every single piece. Now, I want you to think about this like a mirror has shattered. You're not going to have the full view of all that is in each sliver of mirror. It's only going to be able to show you what you're aiming it at. And so I invite you to practice widening your view. Last week, we talked about being colorblind. There are people who do not see aspects of this world because they literally cannot see the colors. There are tribes in the Amazon basin that don't even have a word for color, and so they cannot communicate regarding, go grab the red one or go grab the orange one. And yet some of those same tribes can look into whitewater and see the fish underneath. Our eyes literally do not see the same world as everyone else. And so our job as religious scientists is to train our eyes, to train our consciousness, push away all of those spots on the mirror, and we know we've all had them, that dirt on our mirror, so that we can see the world clearly. And to go gather up the pieces of Shekinah, the pieces of the divine. And by gathering up, I mean see them clearly for what they are, see them clearly for what we are, and then to welcome them back. Now, I don't know about you, but I have broken mirrors, and as I tried to reassemble them or clean them up, I've cut myself on the sharp edges. Or I've found little shards that I stepped on a month later. That is to say, as we practice Tikkun Olam, as we bring the Shekinah back together, we might end up cutting ourselves a little bit. We might have to suffer some pain or some, realizing a month later we missed a small piece that is so important. And that is the process that I would suggest to you humanity is going through right now. We found more pieces of the mirror. We have cleaned off the lenses through which we are seeing things and beginning to recognize more and more colors in the world, more and more little tiny bits of God that we can bring together. It is our job to embrace all of it, to let the masculine and the feminine be at work at the same time as this incredible team that comes together. Now, in the past, we've been a little bit out of whack. I think all of us know that. But as we come together, what we're going to find is that we have more of the world open to us because we start paying attention in different ways. I got to see there's a Netflix show called Connected. I find it fascinating. So if you have Netflix, you might want to check it out. It will weird you out a little bit and make you think sometimes. But if you don't have Netflix, go get it. It's a $14 investment per month. It's awesome. There's these little birds in Baltimore. And scientists have been paying attention to what they have to teach us. You can barely see them. They're just like this big, and they're brown, and they seem like, interesting as a paper bag. And yet these scientists have been studying them and trying to figure out where do they go in the winter. And what happened was they figured out a way to make this little backpack for birds. And it weighs about the same as 2 paper clips. And it has a GPS system installed. And so the scientists were able to not only know exactly what tree the bird was in Baltimore, but when it went south for the winter, they were able to find it all the way in Brazil. They were paying attention and learning new things. And one of the things they learned was that these birds seem to leave at a different time each year. Why would they leave early? It cuts down their breeding time. And so as these beautiful scientists who were seeing a new aspect and a new face of God in these tiny birds, what they realized was on the years that the birds left early, it was a bad hurricane season. The birds have to fly over prime hurricane real estate in order to get to where they go every single winter. And they come back to the same trees. So the birds had to leave early because they somehow knew there was a bad hurricane season coming. As a matter of fact, to prove this, there was a test done in 2018. Meteorologists were saying it was going to be a really lighter than average season, but the birds left early. And someone was paying attention to that. Someone was choosing to see that little sliver of information, that sliver of the divine. And they noticed, June, July, August is the other one. There were no hurricanes. There was nothing. But in September and October, there were 6, which was incredibly high and incredibly above the norm. As a matter of fact, Florence was one of them, and she was a category 4. And Michael showed up, and he's a category 5. So it was one of our worst hurricane seasons. If we will pay attention to all of the information in the world around us, we can be better prepared and better set up to live in this world. And it seems to me there's a marvel involved there. There's a miracle in that. How is it that these birds, these look like nothing much birds, could be warning us about hurricanes months in advance? I don't know how they know. The scientists still haven't figured out how they know. As a religious scientist, I would say that they have access to the one mind, just like all the rest of us. And so they know somehow in their little birdie hearts that that this is what's coming. The divine within them speaks and sends them where they need to be safe. Isn't that something we've all been struggling? Where can we be and be safe? I know a lot of our friends and a lot of our sister communities in California right now are weighing, do I go to the place I've been evacuated to and risk catching COVID, or do I go try and figure out to go somewhere else? And I don't know. There's so many fires going on. We don't know where to go that's safe. How do we know? We tap into the one mind. If a bird with a brain the size of a walnut can do it, then so can we. And this is how we create the world that works for everyone. This is how we figure out how to home every single being on the planet, how to make sure they have a roof over their heads if that is what they want, how to make sure no one has been disenfranchised. Everyone has a voice, and we've figured out how to hear it all. We figured out the mechanics of making sure everyone is fed, because we know that each and every person that has a home and is fed and is heard is spirit speaking. And we will do better if we are all together speaking with one voice, not goose stepping, not following along blindly, but each of us using our own voice to create these complex harmonies, to create this bigger picture that gives us more and more of the Shekinah all brought back together and healed, where not one sliver of that divine mirror is missing. That is who we are, and that is what we do. And so while it may not look like it to some people right now, I can tell simply by the level of energy at work right now, by the way that we here in our center are bringing in more and more people on the net, bringing in more and more people that we would not have met wandering around in downtown Prescott. All of us are coming back to grow this beautiful wholeness, to be part of this thing that needs every single person, needs every single voice, that we may experience this world from a place of nothing left out, nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing extra. That is our definition of divine perfection. Masculine and feminine, peanut butter and jelly, all of it. This is who we are, and this is what we do. And so we do this, through our 5-step affirmative prayer. So I'm going to go into that prayer right now. And I ask you to join me in whatever way feels comfortable for you. If you need to change the words a little to fit with your spiritual tradition or what you're comfortable with, have at it. But as I go within right now, I speak with the divine feminine voice and the divine masculine voice, calling into being this world that works for everyone. And I do it by recognizing our relationship within spirit, within truth. The ultimate truth is that God is all there is. Every single little piece of God that is spread out within this universe is every single piece of anything that's spread out within this universe. There is God and absolutely nothing else. And so as we come together in the name of love in so many different ways, whether it's physically or digitally, What I know is that Spirit is showing up here today. And because Spirit is recognized and we listen to that voice that lives within us and all around us as we recognize ourselves as one of the faces of God, I know and claim that we stand in a higher truth, that all of us begin to recognize and witness the glory of the divine within us, the glory of our own souls, the magnificence of the souls around us, and our oneness. Oneness, not cookie cutter, but oneness as one human and infinite family. I can no more do without one of those humans than I could do without my left hand. I know and claim in this moment a great awakening within all of our hearts. We come together to recognize and stand witness and in awe of this good that is in us, through us, and for us all the time. I stand in awe and celebration of the divine being as it is in all of us right here and now. And I am grateful that the law of cause and effect, what some people call the law of attraction, is already at work. The Spirit has heard us and has already swung into action according to this immutable law. For this I am grateful. And I just know it's already gone to work. So if this has resonated with you, I invite you to join me in saying and acknowledging, and so it is.